Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, or should I say welcome back to my channel for a second time. Back in February, due to a medical problem I had that required some long-term medical treatment, I put my channel on hold. I managed to make one video on my first return to YouTube, but then an even more serious medical problem turned up requiring long-term treatment. And it took me a while to adjust to this kind of new reality. I've been encouraged by family and friends to restart the channel. I've gotten some incredible emails from supporters, um, which are very encouraging, very supportive. Um, and my new doctor discovered, I have to mention that I had a YouTube channel. She was quite delighted with that, and then she delighted me because the next time that I saw her, she actually told me that she had watched a couple of my videos and that she very much thought that it would be good for me to resume making videos. So in a sense, I'm also under doctor's orders. And so my first movie back is not a cheery movie. It's Blood Simple from 1984, the Coen Brothers' debut film. And although not a barrel of laughs to cheer me up, it's nevertheless what critics would often call dark comedy, laughter in the dark, and this is a very dark movie. And it's the Coen Brothers' debut film. It was self-financed, that meaning that the Coen Brothers went around to a whole lot of businessmen, so it wasn't actually self-financed, but they had to gather their own financing with $5,000 here, $5,000 there, showing prospective investors a kind of trailer of what the film would be. The movie is set in Texas. Joel Coen went to the University of Texas in Austin, and for various financial reasons, it made sense to go there. And it is set in a very seedy bar outside our endless plains. The nighttime is punctuated by neon. There's neon signs everywhere. Now the Coen Brothers, they in the supplements, there's a couple of supplements where they're interviewed, and they don't do a whole lot of interviews. One is with Barry Sonnenfeld, who was the director of photography on this film. Not only is this the Coen Brothers' first movie, it was his first movie to shoot. He had shot some industrial documentaries. So they discussed the film and how if they had had more money, because this was very low budget, they would have done things differently here and there. And they kind of poo-poo any kind of analysis of the film or what they intended the film to be. And they also are interviewed by novelist David Eggers. And again, they focus in on the technical problems of making a film from scene to scene. And even narratively, they're always trying to solve a problem of this happened now, what should happen next, and what should happen next, all from the standpoint of story. And in fact, we do see storyboards of Blood Simple, and very detailed storyboards, the staging. So it's not just the cinematography, but it's the mise en scène, the staging of the very unique way that the Coen Brothers stage their films. So this is very much like Hitchcock. Hitchcock, too, in his famous book, being interviewed by Truffaut, he didn't want to talk about, the narrative consistencies in his films outside of the superficial ones, what they might mean to him personally. So this is very much in the Hitchcock vein. Also the storyboards. Hitchcock also had meticulous storyboards and meticulous screenplays. So when we see glimpses of the screenplay for Blood Simple, you can see this was a well thought out narrative, whatever the Coen Brothers have to say about it. So it's a very dark film. It's a story of adultery. There's a bar owner who who suspects that one of his bartenders is having an affair with his wife that we know right off the bat is true. He hires a detective, not just a detective, but a cackling detective, who sort of personifies evil. And this cackling detective rides around in a VW Beetle. Insects are very much a motif of, of the mise-en-scène here. It's also, it reminds me a lot of some stories that I read in Jewish literature, Yiddish literature, short stories, which are kind of parables, they're kind of Job-like parables, where characters are beset by fate, twists and turns happening around every corner. They cannot see their way of what is going on. They have an inability to see things clearly. I think that's a theme that runs throughout the Coen Brothers movies, of miscommunication, of not understanding what's going on, of not understanding what other people's motives are. So, and we also hear we have the golem, which is the monster of the evil detective. And it also is a ghost story. If I recall right, there's a lot of ghosts in Yiddish literature. And we also have the shlemiel, because the bartender who is in the middle of this triangle is certainly, he is totally lost. He just totally loses his bearings. So there's this inability to see things clearly. There's also a sense of a cosmic force in these twists and turns that lead to all these misunderstandings. And this is where the humor comes in. Who is orchestrating this? And you get that in the Yiddish literature because it becomes very funny. How much can I take? So it's almost like they're clawing in the darkness. And in fact, they literally in the final scenes are clawing in the darkness. The movie is certainly helped by a whole lot of debuts, and one being Frances McDormand playing the wife, the adulterous wife. This is her first role. So lots of firsts going on here, and Holly Hunter was considered for the role. She was involved in a Broadway play. Frances McDormand was her roommate. So she went into audition and got the part. And of course, she marries Joel Coen in real life, as the kids say. John Getz plays the bartender. He is the shlemiel of the piece. Dan Hedaya plays the husband, and he is has that ominous. I mean, there's some Richard Nixon poses going on here, and then Emmett Walsh plays the detective, and this is casting coup. And then the Coen Brothers actually wrote this part of the detective, the cackling detective, for Walsh. Just send it to him out of the blue, no agent involved. Walsh is a real curmudgeon, unconventional kind of actor, and he said, "Sure, I'll do it." And there's some good stories of Walsh on the set, and how he managed to get under the Coen Brothers' skin at one point, and he said, and Joe Coen says to him, "Just do it to humor me," and Emmett Walsh says, "I'm doing this whole effing movie just to humor you." And another first, Barry Sonnenfeld did the cinematography. He had only worked on industrial documentaries. It was the first time he ever worked on 35 millimeter. You can really see the 35 millimeter here when you're used to seeing a lot of digital. He would go on to direct his own movies. I think Beetlejuice was Barry Sonnenfeld. And then Roger Deakins, I think he did 3 or 4, Sonnenfeld did, and then Roger Deakins, I think, has done all the rest of them, or at least most of them. And then there's Carter Burwell's music, and Carter Burwell, again, a first-time film composer, the sound designer that the Coen Brothers hired. He was a friend of Burwell. He says, "Why don't you listen to some of his music?" So we get, and how fortuitous, the spare, haunting music, piano music used here is just beautiful. And in the interview with Burwell, he said it still is one of his favorite scores. All these interviews were from the original Criterion release in 2016. So this is the UHD upgrade that I think came out earlier this year or late last year. So, Blood Simple, what does the title mean? It comes originally, I think, from Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest, a Pulp Fiction novel, and this is a film very much in the Pulp Fiction line. And once you taste, or smell blood, you become simple, and certainly this is a illustration of that, as everybody sort of loses their senses once they taste blood. And there's also after the movie was over, the Coen Brothers thought they should have some kind of prologue, some kind of monologue, and they called Emmett Walsh if he would come back to New York and record this prologue, which is absolutely fantastic, where he talks about the Russians and how in Russia they all try to get along with each other. And this is indicative of the Coen Brothers' Cold War kind of mentality. So he talks about how people try to get along, and then we are in Texas. He is in Texas with a Texas accent, but he says, down here, you're on your own. And that pretty much sums up Blood Simple. Perhaps even the Coens over here in general, you're on your own. Blood Simple, 1984, and just terrific review, a terrific upgrade to 4K UHD. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen to my comeback video. I do really appreciate it. Take care.